This is a plant with the most beautiful looking flowers, and it's called foxglove. I mean, look at those beauties. Don't tell me that if you were a bee, you wouldn't want to go in there. The flowers have that lovely speckled pattern inside, almost like a lovely little runway for the bees. And you'll find foxglove with many different coloured flowers, such as the most common one, which is this deep pink. But you also get white ones, yellow, red, lilac. And then the flowers eventually become these pear-shaped green seed pods. You definitely do not want to eat any part of the foxglove plant. It is one to keep off the foraging table because it contains digitalis glycoside, which can potentially give you a heart attack. It can cause your heart to just stop. It grows in a 2-year life cycle, so it's classed as a biennial. So in its first year, it grows as a fairly low growing rosette. And then in the second year, it bolts up to produce the flower spike and the flowers like you've just seen. And it's probably more likely in the first year, or certainly before it flowers, when you're likely to potentially confuse it for other things. The leaves in its first year do look similar-ish to things like comfrey and borage, maybe even burdock, but less so in my opinion. But certainly comfrey and borage look quite similar. So unless you are 100% sure that you've got comfrey or borage and you're foraging for those two things, then I would advise you to wait until it flowers to be 100% sure, because the flowers of comfrey and borage are completely different to foxglove. Interestingly, or at least interesting to me, is the fact that it was the toxin from this plant that actually nearly killed James Bond in the film Casino Royale when he gets poisoned by Le Chiffre. And there is another James Bond link, because even in No Time to Die, Safin, the villain in No Time to Die, when he goes to see Madeleine Swan in her office, notices a foxglove in the background and actually comments to her that if you eat the leaves of that plant, it can cause your heart to just stop. Unfortunately, there have been a few cases of foxglove poisonings in the UK, mainly I think involving young children. So definitely want to be careful of, if you have kids even, to make sure they don't eat it. And maybe even don't touch it too much as well. They're fine touching it a little bit, but you probably don't want to be handling the plant too much. I do know of an instance as well where someone was working in a florist and they were helping the florist with a lot of foxgloves, and they were handling them without gloves all day. And they were fine, they didn't die or get ill or anything, but they did start to experience a few heart palpitations, which went away in a day or two. But nevertheless, it just shows that you have to be a little bit careful if you're going to be even handling foxgloves, especially for long periods of time. Also interestingly is the fact that the toxin from this plant, when used in very small and controlled doses, is actually used as a medication in the cardiac world to treat, believe it or not, certain heart conditions such as congestive heart failure and atrial fibrillation. So the foxglove is a beautiful looking plant, definitely one to admire for its striking beauty when it's in flower, but one to also definitely not eat.